Hey guys, welcome back. And yes, I'm finally starting on the Nova today. For those of you who don't know, we've already done several videos where we put on cow tracks, we put on subframe connectors, we did a disc brake conversion, etc. But today I am going to start getting ready to pull the engine and transmission in favor of the LS that's going in there. Now, as you guys know, I usually do like how-to style videos when I'm doing, oh geez, this hood doesn't want to pop. Yeah, and it is a fiberglass hood, so. All right, I usually do like how-to style type videos when I'm doing this type of stuff. And I will be doing that when we start putting everything back together. But honestly, these first couple videos, you guys might find them a little bit boring because it's basically just going to be me tearing things apart under the hood here. Like I said, it's just going to be me taking the engine out. So the engine and the transmission actually. So I don't know how many of you are going to want to watch this. What I'm probably going to do to save you guys from a little bit of boredom anyway is, you know, I'll probably be speeding a lot of this crap up. Like I said, just to kind of keep you guys from getting too bored. I do want to say it is in fact cold as shit out here, guys. So I've got like a heater over in the background there, and I've got this little heater here, which neither one of those are going to really serve to warm up the entire shop. But I'm hoping, you know, I can at least keep some hot air on my immediate area here. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm actually going through and I'm just draining fluids and stuff, guys. Is pretty much all I got going on. What the heck is this thing doing? Oh Lord. Looks like we got some crazy shit going on with our Peacock down here for the radiator. Now, during the process of this swap, guys, we are actually going to be replacing a lot of stuff. We're going to be replacing the radiator with a new radiator. Well, you know, this isn't going to be like a high dollar swap, but it's going to be a higher budget than what you're used to seeing on this channel. I'll say that. You know, you guys are used to seeing me do things for rock bottom, you know, as cheap as I can possibly do them for. And so I want to kind of go over what the plans are. I know I've talked like in general about what the plans are for this car, but I've never really given you guys like the total game plan, I guess you would say. And the reason for that is because, you know, Ray and I have been discussing what the total game plan is going to be. I mean, just exactly how this thing's gonna come together. I may have to just drain the radiator by pulling the lower hose, which is really going to suck because I'm not going to be able to control the flow and probably make a mess. But I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. So take my bucket over here to the passenger side. But yeah, guys, you know, we've been trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do all this. And the thing is, like, we didn't know exactly what parts we were going to use, but here's the bottom line. The important things that you need to know. You know, you guys know that I'm usually all about just redoing, you know, redoing stock harnesses and things like that. And Ray does not want to do that on this build. He wants to use as solid a parts as possible. He wants to he doesn't want to fabricate anything, guys. That's the thing. Like the transmission cross member, that's another thing. He just don't want to fuck around. He wants to order parts that are specially made, that he knows are going to fit correctly and are going to work properly in case anything ever has to come apart in the future, just for general maintenance or swapping parts or whatever. So we're going to be using a PSI harness. And the cross member, I know some of you guys that are watching have swapped Novas already. And I'd really like some feedback on that, guys, because I was looking at a Transdapt cross member for the transmission, and that's what I was originally going to go with. And then I found out the Transdapt cross member was for a 4L60, not for a 4L80. So yeah, guys, if you've got suggestions, because like I said, while this is not like a super low budget build like I usually do, we still want to try to save some money. You know, like if I could avoid him having to spend you know, $400 or $500 for a transmission cross member, that'd be great. I mean, ideally, if we could find one for like $200 or less, that's kind of the way we'd like to go with it, guys. So if you guys have suggestions for a transmission cross member in that price range, or you guys who've done this swap before, just, you know, throw them in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys are using for 4L80s in your Novas, and yeah, probably help me out, guys. Having a little bit of a brain fart, guys. I forgot I was working on an older car for a minute. I was over here with metric sockets trying to take shit apart. It's kind of funny. Well, you know what? What is kind of funny is it looks like this is a fucking metric. I know GM wasn't using it. Sure as shit is. Holy shit, that's a 10 millimeter. Well, somebody had to put that on, because I'm about 99% sure that GM wasn't using metric fasteners in 1974. But anyway, guys, order of operation on this build here. I really don't have one. But what I would like to do is go ahead and get this engine and transmission out of the car. And I'll tell you the reason for that, guys. The reason I want to get it out of the car is because I've got a lot of shit going on at work and at home. So I tend to put things off and procrastinate. Well, if this car is immobile, I'm more likely to try to hurry up and do stuff to it to make it mobile. So I'll go ahead and pull the transmission and the engine out. It's going to be more motivation for me, because I'm going to know the longer this thing's in my way, if I have to get it out of my way, I'm going to have to be pushing it and getting help to push it and stuff like that. That's just the type of shit that I do to motivate myself, guys. Some of you guys might think that's kind of retarded, but like I said, you know, we've all got ways that we motivate ourselves. For me, the best motivator is necessity. So if this thing's not running, then it suddenly becomes a necessity to get it running. And if it's a necessity to get it running, then I'm more likely to get out here and start pumping out the work and pumping out the videos for you guys. So that's how you guys win too. So you don't have to wait like 2 weeks at a time for me to put out a freaking video for you to watch. See, what I was originally going to do is I was going to go ahead and do the fuel system first, and that was because we were going to do some videos where I was going to be throwing some nitrous on this old 307. I'm sorry. I really am sorry, guys, that didn't work out for us, because I was really wanting to do that, but we may still get to do it. The whole deal where I try to throw a bunch of nitrous at this thing and break it. Well, come on now. That's not 100% off the table, guys. Because I know I keep teasing you guys, saying I have plans for another build, and several of you guys keep asking me what it is. I know I'm evil, just teasing you guys all the time, but I guess since I'm doing a little piddly stuff here, and I really don't have to explain a whole hell of a lot about what I'm doing, because I'm basically just taking shit loose. We'll kind of talk a little bit, but it's probably just going to serve to tease you more than to clear up any conceptions you might have about what I'm planning. But I want to do another turbo build. I think you guys, a lot of you, want me to do another turbo build. However, as I've already expressed multiple times, I do not want to do another turbo build on something that I plan to drive every day. Therefore, I'm not going to turbo the Corvette. The Corvette is going to remain a nitrous car. Now, eventually, it's going to turn into a pretty badass daily driver nitrous car. Okay, this is about to get messy, guys. Because what's going to happen with the Corvette is eventually I'm going to build a stroker engine for it, because I want to make as much power as I can without sacrificing a ton of idle quality. Because again, that Corvette is going to still be a daily driver. My wife's going to be driving it to work. I'm going to be driving it when I'm not at work. And so I want it to be a pleasure to drive, guys. I don't want it to be a car with, you know, a horrible rough idle and you know, that's always having problems with one thing or another. I want it to be something that is genuinely easy to drive, but that I can take to the drag strip and knock out some really impressive numbers. So after the China bet portion is finished, and after this thing is finished, what I would like to do is probably build like a 408 stroker, something like that for the Corvette. That way we can get away with a larger cam without having just a horribly rough idle. And the plan is to try to make close to 500 horsepower on motor, somewhere between 450 to 500 on motor, without a crazy erratic idle. I don't mind having, you know, a lumpy idle, but I don't want just sounds like it's going to die every time it hits a lick idle. Because my wife, honestly, she doesn't enjoy driving vehicles like that. And for daily driver use, I really don't either. But the plan is to build that, and then to build the engine with good components. And it will cost money, guys. That won't be like a really low budget build. But the good news is I'm not going to order some $8,000 or $10,000 crate motor from Texas Speed either. But I want it to, I'm going to build it to hold a you know, 300 to 400 horsepower worth of nitrous. So basically what will happen is we'll have a 450, 500 horsepower car on the street, and at the flip of a switch, you know, we'll have an 800 horsepower car at the strip that still drives like a baby and you know, don't have to worry about all the heat from a turbo or supercharger or anything like that. So you know, that's the long-term plan with the Corvette. But back to, you know, the whole purpose of me starting to talk about that is this engine here. You know, guys, I want to do another build. I want it to be a strip-only car, something that when it breaks, you know, I don't have to freak out and think, oh shit, you know, I got to drive this thing. I got to drive this thing to pick up the kids from school, or I got to drive this thing Monday. So the car that I'm going to build, the next turbo build, it's going to be just a track car, guys. I mean, I could probably drive it on the street if I want, but it won't be a joy to drive. You know, it'll be a big, probably big lumpy cam, freaking overheating piece of shit. You know, just your standard fucking budget turbo shit box. But before we turn said vehicle into a budget turbo shit box, before we do that, we're going to put this engine and transmission into it if I can get Ray to hook me up. What I've offered to do is when he goes to pay me for the 6-liter and 4L80, what I've told him I'd like to do is, instead of him paying me full price for those, I'd like to keep this 307 and the turbo 350 transmission behind it and just knock some money off of what he's going to pay me, you know, for this engine and transmission that we're putting in there. So if he does that, then this old carved 307 will go in the new vehicle that I have not purchased yet. And at that point, we will proceed to do what I wanted to do with this, and that's throw a shit ton of nitrous at it, just to show you guys, you know, what you can do if you're broke and you've got a small displacement V8 like this in an old car, you know, like an old Monte Carlo, Camaro, Cutlass, something like that, and you're just looking to have some fun with it, you know. I'm going to show you what different levels of nitrous will do to improve your times. I've kind of showed you that with the Corvette, guys. I don't know if you were realizing that, but what I showed you with the Corvette was, you know, what different levels of nitrous can do to a LS car that weighs about 3,200 pounds and even has like a, you know, not very acceleration friendly gear ratio. You know, that Corvette actually weighs more than this Nova, gentlemen. It weighs more than this Nova, and both of them have a shitty 273 final drive gear ratio in them. So I know I've said it before, but some of you probably didn't hear it or aren't getting it, but anything I do to that Corvette would also apply to a car like this that had a, you know, 5.3, 5.7, 6.0 LS swap in it. So it's not that I'm just building a Corvette, guys. It's I'm showing you things you can do to any LS vehicle. I'm just using the Corvette as the platform. I hope you guys understand that. So order of operation for this thing, guys, you know, first thing is get the old engine and transmission out. After I'm finished doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to pull the 6.0 here. I'm actually going to push this out of the garage to get it out of our way, and I'm going to bring the 6-liter over here, and that'll probably be, you know, within the next couple videos. I'll bring the 6-liter over here and we'll start reassembling it, honing the cylinders, all that. Once that's done, we'll bring this back in, and you know, we'll get the 6-liter and the 4L80 set in here, and kind of go from there. So I will be working on this little by little after work. So you guys may end up getting a lot of videos that are me, you know, not getting like a whole lot accomplished, but but getting things accomplished nonetheless. And while I'm sure some of you aren't going to want to watch those videos, I do want to say, and I'm not saying this just because, you know, I'm a content creator and I want you to watch them because I need the views. I'm saying this for real, guys. You know, watching all the videos keeps you up to date with what I'm doing and where I'm at, but it also is going to show you all the little bullshit that you have to go through to do something like this. Because you know, I know a lot of the bigger channels, you never see all the little shit, guys. All you see is, hey, I'm gonna do this. They pull the engine, they put an engine in. You see bits and pieces in the videos, and then all of a sudden the car's running in 3 videos. And you know, and then you look at their comment section and it's flooded with people that want to know how they did this, how they did that, how they did this. That's on purpose, by the way. The more comments you get, the higher ranked your videos are, because it's more, it shows interaction, just like we were talking about with the thumbs up and thumbs down. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt you. It helps you because it just shows interaction. Well, it's the same thing with comments, guys. So they'll show you as little as possible because they want you to ask questions. I'm the opposite. I show you everything in hopes that you won't need to ask questions. But anyway, now you know. But the downside to the way I do things is, I know sometimes you guys get bored of listening to me ramble about what I'm doing and you don't watch it all. And then you end up coming back and you're asking me a bunch of questions that I've already talked about 5 or 6 times in the videos. I actually made a whole video about that pet peeve because that is a pet peeve of mine. I mean, I don't mind helping you guys out, but it is a pet peeve when I purposely take the time to make sure I'm covering everything, and then, you know, people don't watch the whole video and they ask a bunch of questions that, you know, I already answered in the videos. So just so you guys know, that's why I get kind of sarcastic in the comments sometimes when people ask certain questions, and I'm like, I'll say something like, well, somebody obviously didn't watch the whole video. When I say something like that, it's because the answer was in the video. All right, guys, so now I really don't have anything to ramble on here. Most of you guys know how to prep a small block Chevy to pull it out of a vehicle. So I'm just going to kind of go over a couple notes, and then, you know, then I'm just going to start busting this out, guys. You know, I'm not going to bore you sitting here babbling about bullshit any longer. So basically, this is it, guys. You just take all your accessories off the front. We're going to pull the radiator, take transmission lines loose. I've already taken all the heater hoses and the coolant hoses loose. We're going to take the exhaust loose, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm probably going to just try to take the headers loose under the car and leave the headers on the car when I'm pulling the engine. Of course, we're going to have to take the carburetor off. We're going to have to take the distributor out. We're going to have to disconnect all the wiring, and some of the wiring we will reuse, some of it we will not. Some of it we'll have to tie into the new harness, like alternator connections, things of that nature. So, you know, anything that I might be questionable about when I go to put everything back together, and listen very closely, guys. If you have wires that you may question later on, you're going to want to go ahead and label them now. And the biggest wire in question, if you're doing an LS swap, this is especially important, is you want to take the wire that's going to your coil, your power wire to your coil, or you know, to your distributor, your key on wire there. You want to label that, because one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they're doing an LS swap is they'll try to wire in their new harness to a wire that is that is switched ignition only. It's switched hot, but it's not hot when when it's cranking. Okay, the wire that's going to your coil, that's not it, it's over here, but the wire that goes to your coil on your old engine, that's going to be hot while cranking. And when we go to put the LS engine in, that's the wire that you want to tie in for an ignition hot to your new harness for your LS, guys. So like I said, big mistake, huge mistake that a lot of people make doing LS swaps, and then they'll go to try to start after they've done the swap, and you see all kinds of comments on the forums and on Facebook. They're like, my injectors aren't getting any, or my injectors aren't firing, my coils aren't getting spark, blah blah blah. And then you'll tell them, you'll be like, hey guys, you'll be like, check and make sure that it's hot while cranking. And they'll go out to the car and they'll turn the key forward and check that wire, and they'll come back and they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, you checked it while cranking? And they'll say, yeah. And then it's the same problem. And then freaking 20 messages later, and I'm like not making fun of you, because I know there's several of you watching this video right now that have done this, and I have helped with this issue through email. But they'll come back in, and I'll just keep saying over and over, are you sure you checked the power while someone was in the car trying to start it, not just while the key was forward? And at that point they'll be like, well, no, I'm by myself. And I'm like, okay, well, do it again. And they'll have their wife, girlfriend, kid, whatever, come out and try to crank the vehicle. And of course, while they're cranking it, there will be zero power at the coils, zero power at the fuel injectors, because they're tied into a wire that is not hot while cranking. So now's your chance to avoid all that, and like I said, mark that wire, guys, because that's the one you're going to need when this is all said and done. And without further ado, I'm going to shut up now and just put my head down and go to work. Nice and painless. Everything that needs to be disconnected or come off up top here is now disconnected or off. Power steering pump is not disconnected, but it is off. I chose to leave it connected and just move it up and set it on the I don't know if you guys saw that, but the Beltec sway bar that Ray put in there. So it's out of the way. And the important thing is it's not going to be dripping power steering fluid all over the garage floor right now. So everything should be good up top here. Like I said, I went ahead and took the engine mounts loose on each side as well. What I've got to do now is I've got to crawl underneath. I really need to try to drain the transmission, get all the fluid out of the transmission, because if I don't, we're going to pull this in one piece, guys. So I have to tilt it. So if I don't get all that fluid out of the transmission, since I don't have a plug to put in it, you know, it's going to dump fluid while we're pulling it. So probably going to go ahead and drain the transmission, take the transmission mount and cross member loose, not take it all the way out because I'm not going to pull it until I've got someone over here to help me. I'm currently by myself, but I've got to get the hood and everything off, guys. I don't want to risk I don't want to risk like dropping the hood or some stupid shit, you know, since this isn't my car. Honestly, if this was my car, I would probably just say fuck it and try to take the hood and shit off myself, but it's not, so I'm gonna wait on some help. But that's what I got to do. Crawl under there, take the drive shaft loose, but I can't pull it out of the back of the transmission until we drain the transmission, and take the wires loose from the starter too, and it's pretty much it, guys. It's ready to come out after that. Probably not going to be able to get a good camera angle since I am by myself. There's really nowhere under here where I can really set this to see what's going on. But anyway, looks like we already have a polyurethane transmission mount, so that's always good. But what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take the bolts for the cross member loose on both sides. I'm going to take the bolts for the transmission mount loose. We're going to take the shifter cable loose. We're going to take the speedometer cable loose. I don't know if you can see, there's not a whole lot, but just need to take my caps off the U-joint back here where the drive shaft bolts to the rear end, and yeah. Oh yes, and I also need to take the headers loose from the exhaust up here. Now this has already got like a 2.5-inch exhaust into Flowmaster, so I'm not sure if we're going to try to keep this and just take it to a shop and have them adapt it to the long tube headers that we have now, or if he's going to have a whole new exhaust system run. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just take it loose there, and I'm going to take the hangers loose back here and just get the exhaust system out from under here. But anyway, I'm going to try to get all this done, and tomorrow hopefully we should have some footage of me and the wifey here pulling the transmission out. So I'm gonna get this knocked out real quick, guys. Are pretty much good for removal tomorrow. The only thing I did not take loose while I was under there is the transmission lines, which are right here. I'm actually just going to bend those over the engine and pull them out with it, because the issue I have is I cannot get to the transmission lines unless I take this header loose. And since the transmission lines are actually like right up against the engine at the bottom, and we're pulling it all out in one piece anyway, it's just extra effort that's not really worth it. So we'll just leave them on when we pull it all out tomorrow. I also went through, you can see the little pieces of tape on the wires back there and over here. I went ahead and labeled everything, but I don't know if you guys can really see it well, but there is a lot of janky shit going on in his harness here. A lot of stuff that has been sliced, extra wires that don't make sense. Anyway, we're going to take care of all that, because what we're going to do is, once this engine and everything is out, we're actually going to scrub down this engine bay real good. Probably hit it with a coat of like semi-gloss or satin black paint. Just make it look nice before we put the new 6.0 in there. But I'm going to redo all this wiring. Obviously, there's some things like, you know, the alternators over here. That's going to be over here on the other side on the LS engine. So we're going to have to do some wire rerouting. And while I'm doing the rerouting, I'm also going to fix some of the janky ass shit that's been kind of rednecked up in here. Like this ground right here. Yeah, this is a perfect example. We got the body ground here. Do you see that, guys? That's our body ground. Like, this is our ground wire off the battery. This end goes to the engine. This one's going right here to the body, and you can see it's just, that's janky as fuck. But also, you know, I like to run off my battery cable. I like to split it 3 ways and go body ground frame. So, you know, we'll be making a whole new battery cable. I think we are going to leave the battery tray up front here. He hasn't decided yet, but he's probably going to be over here. I don't know. I've got to work this weekend, but next weekend I'm hoping Ray can come over, and hopefully at that point I'll kind of have some stuff cleaned up, and we can go over, you know, any changes that he wants me to make. Okay guys, so just a little real talk here. It is probably a good thing we're doing this swap, because I just want to tell you guys, just about everything I laid a wrench or a socket on underneath that car was loose, which is kind of scary because Ray's been driving this car quite a lot. And yeah, like I said, just about everything I put a wrench on under there was already loose. The transmission cross member bolts, they were loose. The header bolts were loose, which is really weird because it didn't seem to be leaking. I mean, there was no soot and you couldn't hear an exhaust leak when it was running, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was loose under there, guys. The engine mount bolts, like I thought I was gonna have to really get some torque on them to break them loose. No, they were kind of loose too. So, you know, of course I'm glad I'm doing this engine swap. This thing's gonna be a freaking beast, guys. But I'm really glad because, you know, from an aspect of that was really unsafe, you know, all that stuff being loose under there. So okay, that one's on the crank on the LS. So yeah, glad that's all tightened up. I'm just kind of cleaning my tools up now, guys. This is my routine. I've never really showed it to you before, but this is what I do whenever I get finished. Not every time. Like if I know I'm going to be using the same exact tools the next day, I won't clean those tools up. I'll usually just lay them on the workbench. But it's a good idea to put everything else up. Everything you know you're not going to be using, go ahead and put it up. That way you don't lose anything, especially 10 millimeters, 7/16, and 1/2 inch wrenches. Those are notorious for just wandering off. Anyway, guys, I'm not going to sit here and make you watch me clean up all of my tools. So I just want to say, hopefully I can get the wifey to help me tomorrow. We'll go ahead and get this engine out. And, you know, then probably, I'm wanting to say the video after that will be us putting the 6.0 back together and getting it ready to go in. So I realize this video wasn't super exciting, but I hope you enjoyed it, maybe even learned something. If you did, give it a thumbs up for me. If you want to keep track of this project, make sure if you're not subscribed, you hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to click that notification bell, guys. You will not be notified of new videos if you do not click the notification bell. If you're new to the channel and you don't know what's going on here, then I urge you to check out this DR Nova playlist. Now I'm going to finish cleaning my tools, and you need to get off YouTube, get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.